So this is the Aguei. I don't know what the model number is on this. They only have this one product, so we'll just talk about my first impressions. I guess they call it the Aguei 400. It is a 400 watt portable power station. My impressions first and foremost. Let's just think about the form factor. This thing is super portable. It includes a lot of things. I admit, when I first saw the design, it struck me as a bit of a dated design, because I remember some older power stations kind of having this color and this setup and stuff like that, like older rock pals and things like that. So I told my wife, I was like, it's a little bit. And she looked at it, she was like, that thing is fine. What do you mean? It looks good. And I was just like, okay, well, maybe my position is outdated. Snap, I forgot to mention that the company sent this to me for free, which is pretty cool. Shout out to Aguei. This thing has 2 AC outputs. I was shocked that it had a USB-C power delivery port of up to 45 watts. It has a quick charge USB-A device, and then it has some slower USB-A devices for like your low power draw USB devices. It has 4 5521 barrel plugs. These things are interesting. I've talked about these before. I like them because you can get a male to male 5521 and you can charge things that take that port, or you could get a cable and an adapter kit and you could charge all sorts of other things. I have to caution you because I don't know much about the voltage of these ports, not specifically to this device, but to any device. And I don't know how well they regulate it. And what I mean when I say regulated, 12 volt devices work on a spectrum. Don't quote me on this, I'm no expert, but they work on a spectrum. So you may have something that takes in 14 volts, 15 volts, 12 volts, 13 volts. I'll have to just assume that this device and other devices are smart enough to put out the proper voltage and they won't damage your devices. Because some DC devices like a laptop, even though they can plug into a 12 volt cigarette lighter, they still have that block on there that regulates the power going out to that laptop. One thing I don't like about this thing is this handle. That handle goes up and down. Why? I don't get it. I don't see any practical use for that. There are also lights on here, handle, light. I think that that's a cool design element. This thing is really small. Okay, so I talked about it, those couple factors. So let's say you have a Jackery or a Blue Yeti EB70 or whatever, a larger capacity power station. You don't want to carry that to the picnic with you. You know what I mean? You may not want to bring that out in the yard. That's where something like this comes in. You get a higher capacity for a cheaper price than some other things. This thing has about 400 watts of power. You could easily carry this around. I think this is where Jackery kind of made their bread and their butter, because they use the same kind of chemistry and battery chemistry in here that's lighter. And that has a place. You know what I mean? We all want the big beastie, brolic portable power stations, but you don't always need that. Some people have the AC 200p. That thing is a monster. You barely ever want to move that. But if you just want to kind of go out and be able to run a fan, charge your laptop, charge some phones and things like that, these things I think are really cool. I've been kind of testing it and working with it. I'm very impressed with the power capacity on here that's inside the device. It delivers on what it says. It has about, I did a test. I'll see if I could drop the footage. The hours doesn't matter as much, but you can see it 352 watts of output. That's one of the main things that I like about this thing. The battery capacity is true. I'm not saying others aren't, but you get something from a company that's not necessarily as known, you start to wonder whether or not it has the type of capacity that it should have, or they're just playing the numbers game to kind of get people to buy their products. Let's talk about charging. I've never seen this before, and this is pretty cool. It comes with a MC4 to Anderson cable for charging from solar panels, but you can charge from the AC and the car through this 5521 port. One thing that I've never seen these devices like this do is you can also charge from solar on the 5521. I have the Go Labs and the Bodens, they both charge by 5521. So what that means is I have multiple MC4 cables. I have it two. So I have two MC4 cables to 5521. So I have a lot of versatility between my devices. I have a 50 watt panel. If I wanted to charge this with that 50 watt panel, I can plug it right into this. I don't have to use Anderson. I love that. I really like that about this device, that it can take solar from both inputs. That's dope. Now we have to talk about the solar charging. It's 60 watts. probably not even. It's probably more like 45 watts, which is in line with the Bodens and the Go Labs. I'm not a fan of that. But if it's a secondary device, that's not as important to you. Your main device, you kind of want it to take more solar input than that. And you may not. I mean, I've been in the solar game for a little bit, so I'm a little more picky than most people. So you could be fine with 60 watts. You know, if you want to be able to run your internet and your TV pass-through power, it does have pass-through power. I'm going to have to drop a update on that. I'm pretty sure it does, but I don't know that I've tested that. So you can see that it is charging, and this light is getting power. It's a light sensitive light, so I have to cover it up to turn it on. But the AC is on, it's receiving charge, and this outlet works. And all the other ports turn on too. USB-C, bam, flashlight turns on. So 60 watts, 60 watts against 400 watts, it takes forever to charge. And it's not even 60 watts from solar, it's probably more like 37 or 42, or shoot, we got to get to the display. This display is pretty much useless. It just tells you what's on and what's going on and stuff like that. That's why for a secondary device, that's not that important. But you don't necessarily want to get your primary device and then not have any useful stats on them. You can. Again, I'm picky. You certainly can. You don't necessarily need that information. My Bodens didn't have anything useful on it. It provided me power. I worked from that thing for day in and day out. My laptop, it charged it. It was good. I didn't know what was going on, but you know, I had power though. So another thing I do like that I don't think I've ever seen any power station do per se, but when you plug in the 60 watt power delivery port, it could apply to other ports, but I haven't tested it. It just turns on, it senses it and it turns the thing on. I think that that's dope. That's pretty cool. I don't know any other power station that does that. The AC power button, you have to hold it to turn it on. I think that that's cool. The fan goes for a little bit and then it's going to turn off. It has feet on the bottom. They have plastic on them. I have not taken the plastic off because I want this thing to be able to slide and move around. It also gives you a little protection from the outside elements if you have to sit it down on the ground or something like that. Overall, this is a nice little device. They have, I think it costs about $369 and they have like an $80 coupon. So you could get 400 watts for $280 at the time of this video. One glaring drawback is there's no DC cigarette lighter port. You can get an adapter. In my opinion, adapters suck. Not that they don't perform, but just having to plug something in to use it, that's just me. I'm not an adapter guy. I do what I have to do, but I'm not a fan. But it's smaller. I don't have a 12-volt refrigerator. I don't use that. I have other power stations that have 12-volt capacities and, you know, ports and all that jazz. So that doesn't bother me. As a secondary device or as a primary device for somebody who doesn't have DC things that run from 12-volt, or someone who's okay with plugging in an adapter, it's like, it's fine. But I like the form factor because it doesn't have that. It's a lot smaller. It comes with all of the plugs that you need. That's always a plus. In my opinion, as far as like capacity, 300 watts is the sweet spot. Anything lower than 300 watts, you appreciate that power, but that power doesn't last you as long. When I went from my Bodens to my Rock Pals, but specifically my Go Labs, I really appreciated that power bump because it's usable power. I can put it up to my TV. My TV uses 50 watts. You could run your TV for like about 6 hours. You know what I mean? Versus like if you got like a 150 watt device, you get 2 to 3 hours out of it. That's not really, it's like that's just enough. But you can relax a little bit with 300 watt hours. This thing has 400, so it gives you a lot more runtime. I've been really impressed with the runtime on this. I like this thing. I throw my internet and my TV on it all the time. All the time. Get it on sale though. That makes it a better risk to take, quote unquote. And I like this thing, but I have to preface it with this. There's a difference between what you should be looking for your primary power station and what you should be looking for in a secondary power station. There's also a difference between what you should be looking at from a mainstream product and then from a upcoming or a secondary company. I don't mean to be rude or anything, but You know, your mainstream ones are your Jackeries, known name brands, and then not so known name brands. It's a balancing act you have to achieve when you're out here looking at portable power stations. I have a particular set of standards, but I'm not everybody. It's like, I don't want to inject that into this. Minuteman Prep did a video on this and he called it the Aguei. So I reached out to the company and I asked them how did they pronounce it, and I was like, can I pronounce it Aguei, like Ahgway? And they just said that's fine. They didn't tell me that that's how it was pronounced, which I thought was peculiar. But this is the Aguei 400 watt, and this thing is cool. I like it. It's hard navigating these Amazon waters with these portable power stations that are not from name brands. But now you have 2 videos out there about this. You have Minuteman Preps and you'll have mine. His video was good. You should check it out. I'll link it somewhere around here. I like his videos on power stations. He gave 4 Patriots a hard time, as it deserved. I've been debating on whether or not I should just do a video about them. I'm so bothered by that company, but I'm trying to be measured. I'm trying not to be brash, but they bother me. All right, Saab, holla.